Hello everybody, this is Karen from Be Creative, and I'm excited to be here tonight and to share with you a couple tips and tricks and stamping techniques, because that's why we're all here. So what I want to do is in the comments, as you guys are watching, I'll drop links to some of the stuff I'm talking about, and if you have other questions, please feel free. Let's make this interactive and let me know what questions you have or comments. I'd love to know where you're from, where you're watching from, what you're working on right now. I'm just excited to chat with you. So what we're going to talk about today are a couple fun things. I've got a couple new products. I've got this really fun Peekaboo window type thing that we're going to do, and that's using these really fun stamp sets from Hero Arcs along with some really cool infinity dies. We're going to talk about that. I want to also talk about ways we can stamp and not just do full color. That's so boring. That's all we ever do is we stamp it, we color it in. Let's do a different technique, kind of like a tone on tone technique. Let's do that using this staycation line of stamps. And then lastly, I want to get into a masking technique. Those of you who maybe have been masking for years with Post-it notes, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about at all. I want to talk masking paper and use two of my favorite wintertime stamp and die combos to put that together, along with a little bit of coloring. And I don't know, whatever else I come up with. So let's do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I am working on a simple little flower I stamped, and I want to talk about masking technique, how we mask and put something as if it's behind in a really easy way. I know some of you maybe have been doing this with Post-it notes over time, but this masking paper really will kind of change your life. So it comes in a package with 12 sheets. It's a good size. What is that, 5 by 7 or so, I believe. And I've got a piece I've already used here. It's really thin, and I think that's what makes it different than you trying to do your own type of mask with temporary tape. It's really thin, so you don't get any lip when you're layering stamps upon one another. And by lip, I mean that, you know, when you're using a thicker masking type paper, the lines aren't going to meet up quite as well. So I have an image here. I stamped this really simple flower and I colored it with my Spectrum Noir tri-blend marker. And I want to put another flower as if it was behind it. So how would I do that? I need to mask off this area and then stamp another one. And then I can reveal the flower and it'll look like it's behind. So I'm going to take my masking paper and I'm going to stamp. The blue side is going to be the side that gets stuck down, and the white side is the side you're stamping on. So I'm going to take my ink and just ink that up. It doesn't have to be nice because it's just a mask that I'm creating. So I'm going to just make that flower like that. And then I'm going to cut him out. And I do want to cut it pretty close to the lines because, you know, I'm covering up the other image and it needs to look pretty realistic. So I don't have any overlay when I stamp the next image on top. So I'm just kind of doing half of this, because this is a great little tip too, like a cheater trick. If my other flower is just going to be coming out of this side, I'm not stamping over here, so I don't need to mask the whole other side of the flower because it's not involved in stamping the second image. So this will do it for me. So now I just need to peel off. I'm just going to actually trim this just so it's easier. So I cut this out and I actually left a little bit because I know I'm not going to be stamping on the left side, so why fussy cut more than I have to? That's another little tip. So I peeled off the blue backing. It's very thin, and just as I said, that's so you don't get a profile when you're stamping on top. And I'm just going to match this up and put that mask right over the other image. And if you don't cut it out real carefully, that will come into play as you're stamping the other image. So I'm just going to lay that there, and now I'm going to stamp my other image on top of it. Maybe like that. So as you can see, I've layered it on top, but the minute I pull off the mask, I have the perfect image in the background. Like that, I can color that up and I'm all set to go. So that's what's important. Now, if you don't get right up to those lines and do an exact, sometimes you can see a little discrepancy by like when you do the new stamp, how close you should have been to the other line. But masking paper makes it really easy to do that layered effect. And again, looks just like this. I have a little piece stuck to it. So really handy. This will last you a very long time. Another masking technique I did really simple is something like this, where you're just putting like the other coffee behind. But beyond doing this, so this particular stamp set is this collection here, one of my favorites, hot chocolate and the like Starbucks coffee bean type cup. So it has die cuts and it has stamps in there. And it's great when you have sets that have both, because you can choose either to stamp like I did here, or you can die cut, which I did here. And then you can do, like, as another little tip, to do the lid on this, I didn't have pink paper, nor do I want to use a perfectly good piece of pink paper. So all I did on that is I used my set of, where is it? Contemporary Christmas. This is brand new from Classique Spectrum Noir. It's their new Christmas sets. They've got two different sets, the Contemporary Christmas and the traditional. And these sets have a whole host of markers plus a metallic marker, which is really great. So I've got the set right here. So all I did was pull out of there my, which color was it? This one right here. This is called Frost Pink, really nice light pink color. So in order to get a lid like this, I just took my white paper and I took my chisel tip and I literally scribbled like that. Then I can take my die cut on here, and that's how I got the lid. So you don't need to use a perfectly good sheet of colored cardstock, which a lot of times is going to cost you more than your plain white. So I go with plain white for most everything I do. And then so I did that marker on both of these, and it looks like I used cardstock, and then I'm just saving a lot of my colored cardstock for other things. Another really fun embellishment tool for stamping I like is the snow marker. I've talked about it before. It's still my favorite, and we are definitely getting into snow marker season. So not just adding snow to projects, but it works for whipped cream. It works for popcorn, for bathtub foam, for foam on top of your beer mug. All kinds of things that you can add a little texture to. You can even then tint it with a little, say, like a Wink of Stella or a Spectrum Sparkle, and make it look like a toasted marshmallow. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do. So here I've got the whipped cream. It looks like a paint pen on the inside. So rather than color, I kind of more just tap, tap, tap to get a little texture down. I don't want to completely discolor over the black stamped lines that are giving me some dimension and texture there. So I'm just going to kind of tap, 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 tap like this. Then I get my heat tool. This is my Ranger heat tool. There's all kinds of different ones on the market. The important thing is just simply not to use a hairdryer. Am I right? Have you ever tried it where you're like, maybe it'll work? It will not work. You need that really high intensity heat. And since I haven't had mine on yet today, it takes a little bit to get it going. Here it comes. I see it starting to puff up. Let me pull this up so you can kind of see. There we go. So what I like to do also is add some layers. So I just did a very faint, as you can see, little bit. I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add a little more. Kind of fill in the holes there. And hit it one more time. Very nice. So let's talk about reality versus doing something a little bit out of the box. So often in our stamps that we buy, they have the color label on the package, much like these. This is the Staycation line from Gemini, because we're not really traveling much, and really cute campers and all that good stuff. But the label on there is going to be full color. This may be a little daunting to some of you. I know sometimes I get overwhelmed if I just really want to make a quick card, and I do color, but sometimes I don't want to do all the coloring. There's just a lot of work involved, or I just want it to be a little different and bring a different flavor to my stamped card. So rather than do it in full color, you can instead opt to go more of a monochromatic look. It's much easier, it's a little different. So I popped out something like this, which was super easy. It's just using 3 different colors of cardstock, a lighter, a darker, and then this more of like a butter cardstock. And I did a little Spectrum Sparkle marker that I shimmered on the edge. I did color the fire, the moon, and the stars with a tri-blend marker. And that's just to bring a little pop of color into it. So very different than this. You can get 2 completely different looks, and it's really easy to do. Another option, here's one of my other really all-time favorite stamps that's very popular. It's from Hero Arts, and it is a bookcase stamp where you get the big bookcase and you get lots of sentiments and images and stuff to do a peekaboo look, or just to, you know, make a really fun card for somebody who loves to read, or maybe put in a gift card for Amazon in with a card you make that's made out of books. That would be fun. But so often all the samples that I see are in full color, and that's a lot of coloring. So doing something that's more monochromatic just makes the stamp look completely different. This is just in all the different pink tones, and it's backed with the luxury cardstock that we have that's in 30 sheet packs of mirror, matte, and glitter. So pulling those colors out with the cardstock, completely different look than doing them all just multi-colors of the rainbow. So you can really have that piece speak to a specific person, maybe what they like in terms of color. So that's kind of fun. Another option. So here's one of my other current favorite stamps. Actually, here's 2 of them. I've got this ornament stamp and this well-used present stamp from Hero Arts. And these are designed to do some of the peekaboo, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the peekaboo nesting to flip open the windows. So as you can see, these are all done mostly in multicolors. You could do a really fun advent calendar out of this with all the different presents, which would be fun. I did a card here that was like a peekaboo type opening thing using some simple coloring with water-based markers, no shading or anything fancy. I embellished it with some crystal stickles, glitter glue, and I used like the gold marker that was in the Christmas set. Actually, that's silver. The silver marker in the Christmas set up here, down here, and the gold marker up here that looks like this. So again, that's from that classique set I talked about earlier. And so this is really simple to do, but again, that's a multicolor look. So you could do something very monochromatic and more dramatic by just doing it in all one tone, like the ice blue tones. So that was done with this particular set that has all the contemporary Christmas out of there. So you could keep it monochromatic and do it simple and bring a completely different flavor to something like that. Now, talking about how we did the peekaboo windows, because that's like the newest, most fun thing you can do, that's using the really fun infinity nesting dies. They come in rectangular, square, circle, and oval, and you basically put those through your die cut machine. One edge is going to be a score edge and the other 3 are cut. So the score edge allows you to open that window like I did here. So really easy to do. Let's cut one out just so you can see what I'm talking about. So this particular die that came out of the infinity nesting set, if you look really closely, it's going to be hard to see, but one edge is a score because it's a little flatter, and the others have more of a raised lip, and those are the cut edges. So your score edge is going to be what you're working with there. So I'm going to put my die down here, and what I could do if I was doing like with this guy, I'm going to place them out where I want them to cut on the card. Luckily on this Gemini Junior mat, there's lots of score lines, grid lines to really help you measure out like a 5x7 card versus an A2 card, even up to 6x6. So I would have to invert it though. I'm going to flip it backwards. So you got to think backwards when you're going to die cut it. I'm just going to cut one here. So I've got it facing up at me with the cardstock over it, and I'm going to just throw that through like this. And it's so easy, you don't have to do anything. It's all electronic. That's why I love this machine. No cranking. Just like that. And you can see it cut it and it scored it at the same time. So that's how we get that peekaboo window. Really easy to do. Some of my other favorite tools and embellishment type items for when I'm stamping are, of course, the Uniball Signos. We have a bundle set where you get black, gold, silver, red, and white. What's great about these, super opaque, rollerball gel ink that doesn't skip, unlike the other pens on the market. They don't skip. It's a really good quality type ink. And the white is great, you know, for, you can write on the dark paper, you could add stitch lines to something you've done, great for Christmas cards, all that good stuff. It's just really bright and vivid every time, very opaque. But I also use it as a cheater way to do like whiteout. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I have a piece of paper here, and let's get out, what do I need? My Memento ink, and I'm going to take that same stamp I was using earlier, and I'm going to stamp it like this, and I'm going to do kind of a bad job. See how I have a double image there? So that's a really bad stamp. Honestly, I should throw this away and start over because I've got some double lines here. But you can sometimes, if you smudged outside the lines or you have a double image line or something you want to correct, I can come in with my white gel pen and I can kind of color on top. Do you see how I'm doing that? And I'm going to cover that line all together. So I kind of color and I tap combination, and it allows me to kind of go in and clean up some of my boo-boos without completely throwing away what I stamped. You can kind of see how I'm doing that there, like that. Same thing if, you know, if I went outside, here I have a black pen here, and I accidentally smudged just a little bit, and I wanted to clean that up, I could kind of fake it and go on top with my white pen, and voila, he's gone. So that's kind of a great thing. It's kind of a fake pretend whiteout, and that's the Uniball Signo. Some of my other favorites are, of course, glue pens, like the Quickie glue pen, or the Zig two-way glue, but the rollerball has the fine point on it. This allows you to do a lot of stuff with embellishing and foil and whatnot, where you can just write, you know, embellish if I was going to come on top of this like that. Not only is it going to help you tack down those smaller little doodads, little antenna on your insects, stems on your flower, that kind of stuff, but it allows you to do foil as well. Let's let that dry for 1 second. Okay, so it's kind of dry. I can come in with my foil, and any foil will do. This is Gemini foil that we have, but there's all different types of foil. And then you can just put it on, rub with your finger like this, and it's going to allow you to accent in foil. And you can go back the areas you missed like this. I even went off the side like that. So you can kind of see how you can add little foil accents to your piece. You do want to let that dry way more than I just did in order to have it be very vivid, but it's a great way to add accents. So those pens are kind of fun with any kind of foil, the Quickie glue and the Zig rollerball. I also am a big fan, of course, of my Spectrum Sparkle marker in clear. We do have Wink of Stella as well. There's a new Wink of Stella right now that's a clear with 2 refill cartridges, so you're basically getting 3 in the pack. That's brand new for the holiday season, and we literally just got those in, along with the gold, silver, and clear mix. But the Spectrum Sparkle also comes in clear, and I find it to be a lot more juicy and more opalescent. There's a lot more shimmery goodness in there. Really easy to put on top of any surface to give you that shimmer. If I can get the light to hit that, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So you can put that absolutely on top of anything. You can also use this in your stamping. If you're doing stamping and anything with water-based markers, you can go on top and use this in lieu of a water brush or a paint brush, and it will infuse glitter into your piece. So for example, if I come back to, I didn't paint these with watercolor, but this is with alcohol marker, but I could come on top with this and add a lot of shimmer, and you can kind of see the shimmer peeking through. There we are, a little bit of shimmer. And in fact, I could give him another squeeze. Do you see how it's all coming out? And then I could have a just much more iridescent look to that. You can kind of see that there. Really pretty, adding just a nice shimmery gloss on top of your piece. And of course, one of my all-time favorites is Stickles glitter glue. I love glitter, but I don't like it on myself, so I hate loose glitter. I think it's just a tragedy. It's messy. It gets stuck to everything. You never quite get rid of it, and then you find it like stuck to your kids and your hubby and your pets, and that's a mess. That is a mess. So I like this because it's glitter that dries, solid glitter, doesn't rub off. So I could come on top and accent something like this and add little doodads to add a little glitz and glamour to my piece like this. So I believe we've got about 50 colors of this currently. The all-time favorites I would say would be Crystal, Icicle, Stardust. Icicle is chunkier and thicker than like your Stardust and that kind of thing. And now if you get one like this where it's not quite coming out, it's kind of coagulated, you can either get an earring and shove that in there, or you can kind of just chop it off and go down a little bit. You only have a couple times to do that, and then you really can't do that anymore. Okay, so I can come in and just embellish, but it's a fun way to add a little dimension, texture, and glitz to something like this. So I hope you were slightly inspired. I hope I could answer some questions for you. It's fun to get together like this virtually while we don't have the shows. And you can always visit us online at www.shopbecreative.com. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/shopbecreative. And we're very interactive, so please feel free to come connect with us. And I hope you have a great evening.
Hi guys, Florette here with Ink on 3. Thank you for joining me here today. I'm so excited to be back at the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo's Stamping Techniques event. We're going to have a lot of fun and create a really elegant card using all kinds of stamping techniques. So we're going to use stamps, we're going to use dies, we're going to use inks of course, and I'm going to also use the Fade Out No Line Coloring ink, which is our specialty ink, as well as our Atelier ink, which is another one of our specialty inks that we developed. So let's get started. Oh, and don't forget there's a coupon for the show, and I'll have details for that as well. So let's get started and get your ink on. So here's the card. It's very elegant. We're going to create it step by step, and you're going to be surprised at how easy it is. In front of me I have all the great products we're going to use today to make this card. This is the Roses in Bloom stamp set, and it has this big beautiful rose. It's really fun to color, but it also has all these amazing sentiments like thank you, and if friends were flowers I'd pick you. Love that sentiment. It's just so cool. And then there's also thoughts and prayers are with you and a few others, so it's very versatile. And what's really fun is we're going to pair it with the Bad and Bougie stamp set, which is a really playful set, and it has kisses and sending kisses. It has the big kiss stamp, a diamond, a perfume bottle that you can make really fancy, and you're going to see what we're going to do with that. And there's also dies that go with the Bad and Bougie stamp set too that are really fun. They're coordinating dies. And we're going to use some liquid pixie dust, the 3 essential inks, as well as the Atelier ink. So we're going to have a lot of fun here. So to start off, we're going to use some Blackout Detail ink. It's a really amazing ink because it dries almost instantly to the touch. So you're going to get these really crisp black lines, and you're not going to smear your project. And so what we're doing here is we are stamping it on the edge using our Misty, and you're going to see why we stamped it off the edge in a little bit. Now when you stamp with Blackout, the nice thing is it is Copic friendly and it's a permanent ink, but it's also very easy to clean off. I just use the ink off cloth because we have this great cleaner called the Ink Off Cleaner, and it's in a pad, and it's really easy to clean your stamps, and it makes cleaning your stamps a lot more fun. I actually clean my stamps all the time now, which before I didn't want to because it wasn't so easy, but this makes it a breeze. And you can see I just wipe it off. And if you want to, you can also spritz it with a little water. You don't have to, but sometimes I like to just to get it a little squeaky clean there. And I'm just going to wipe it off with my ink off cloth. You can also use it to clean your stamping blocks, your mat, your Misties, so it's extremely versatile and easy to use. And look at how easy my stamp is already clean and ready to be put away and ready for the next stamping session. The thing I wanted to mention about blackout ink is that it is also waterproof, so you can use it for watercoloring as well. So here is our panel that we stamped earlier. I'm just taking a rectangle die, placing it in the center of the panel, and then I'm going to run that through my die cutting machine. And here you can see we have two pieces. I'm going to set that frame aside and we're going to do a little ink blending. I grabbed the My Jam Purple and a blending brush, and I want to get a really soft, smooth blend. So I take my brush and I dip it into the lid because I already have some ink there. I like to put my ink in my lid so that it's always readily available and I can get a softer color. And it also will give you a softer color if you use a lighter touch. And what's really great about the Atelier Artist Grade Fusion inks is you can get a variety of colors. You can get a really deep dark purple or a really light lavender like we're getting here, and it's all by the way you apply it. The other thing is all the colors were designed to blend together. So you can blend these together and create new colors, or you can also blend them together to just get these really awesome blending shaded techniques. And here you can see I'm blending the two colors together, and it's going to give me a little bit different purple at the bottom. It's going to add like a little bluish tint, but I'm also putting the Atelier Peacock Blue on very lightly. Like I said, I always will tap off into my lid, and I always have that ink readily available, and it just makes things a little easier. I usually will start by blending off the page and pulling onto the page, especially if I'm going for a really light color. And I can layer my colors as I go along. A lot of times I'll like to start light and then build my colors up. So you can do that or start dark, and we're going to do that later too. But here we just really wanted a really, really soft, pretty blend, almost like an ombre. You'll also notice I have a piece of paper that I've been moving around, and I use that so that my fingers don't get in the ink, so that I can keep more control of what the panel turns out to. So I'm not getting my fingerprints on the panel, and I'm also not getting the ink on my fingers. You can also use it like I did just to test how light of color you have on your brush. And also with brushes you can get either a really dark tone or a really light tone. If you want to get your deepest, darkest tone, then you might use a dauber. That'll give you a little more ink and a darker color. But this will, to keep that really elegant, pretty look, almost like a window, I wanted it to be very, very soft. I love blending with Atelier because it's buttery smooth. The other nice thing is the case is stacked together, and you can also stamp really well with it, and it's also water reactive, so you can do all kinds of water techniques as well as watercoloring. Now it's time for our next step, and we're going to do some no line coloring, and we're going to use the Fade Out No Line Coloring ink. You can stamp it one time and you're going to have a really light color, which a lot of Copic colorists love it for. If you have less lighting or you have bad eyesight, you can stamp it multiple times. The more you stamp it, the darker it will get, and you'll be able to see it better. I stamped it multiple times so that you could see it on camera, but the technique will be the same, and it will perform for you the same no matter how many times you stamp it. It really is an amazing ink. I actually took 2 years to develop it because I wanted something new, and this is the very first ink ever designed specifically for no line coloring. It is the original, and it really is amazing. And earlier I was showing the brush that I'm using. It's a water brush pen, and it has a really fine tip with a lot of spring, so it keeps its shape really well, and it's really great for small images. And you'll see I have an ink off cloth. I not only use it for cleaning my stamps, but I like to use one for watercoloring with, just to take that excess water off my brush. And you can see I'm actually dipping straight into the Atelier Bee Sting Yellow, and I'm just going right over all the lines of that perfume bottle that I stamped. That's one of the magical things about the Fade Out No Line Coloring ink, is I can take my paint or ink or whatever I'm going to be watercoloring with, and go right over the lines. The lines are going to become the color of the media or paint or ink that I lay on top. So those lines are not going to disappear. They are going to change to the color that I put on top of them. So it makes no line coloring really easy. I don't have to worry about lines disappearing. I can just think about where I want my colors, where I want it darkest, where I want it lightest. I usually like to start light and then build my colors up because I like to think about what I'm doing. Do I want it to be light here or dark here? And if I start light, I can just build those colors up. That's the other thing about Atelier ink is you can build and layer colors. So it's really versatile. So that's all the coloring we need to do on the perfume bottle. And you can see it was really, really easy. One of my tips for watercoloring is always use less water than you think. You really just want a brush tip that's very damp, barely wet to the touch. And you're going to have more success the less water you use. Now on the screen, it's kind of hard to see what the perfume bottle looks like, but you'll see it closer up a little bit later, and you're going to see we've retained all the details, but we've got this really pretty translucent perfume bottle now. So now we're going to make the diamond also a translucent look. So I wanted to make sure and start light and then work my way darker to figure out where I want those shadows, where I want it lighter, darker. If you notice, like you'll look here and you'll see some of the lines got a little dark. They grabbed the color. Don't worry about that. It will settle down as it dries. Every time you watercolor, it's going to be a little bit darker in spots, or it might look a little fuzzy sometimes, but as it dries, it settles down. And the magical thing about fade out ink is you will see when your image is all dry, it's going to look beautiful. It does most of the work for you. And now when you combine the Atelier with the fade out ink, because they were designed to work together, they were designed to be a pair to make no line coloring that much easier. So fade out made it really easy. And then when we pair fade out with the Atelier, it even got more fun and easier. One of the reasons that Atelier is so amazing to watercolor with is because it is very forgiving. You can paint something and then rework it later. It gives you a lot of working time. So you can go back after it's dry and move things around or add more layers. So you can continually correct something or play with it until you get the desired effect you're looking for. So these two inks together are going to make your coloring and take your coloring to a whole new level. I wanted to make sure and give you another tip in watercoloring. When you're coloring small images like the ones we just did there and you're using a water brush pen, I usually recommend to not have water in the pen. And the reason is it's a small area, you don't want to have that much water coming out. If you're using a water brush pen and you're coloring like a large petal, then I might have water in the water brush pen. Otherwise, I'm using it as I would a normal paintbrush. So here I decide I want to dry it a little, and you can see I flip it back and forth. When you're watercoloring, your paper will warp a little bit when you dry, but if you turn it back and forth, it's going to keep your paper straighter. So when we stamped the perfume bottle and the diamond earlier, I kept those stamps in my MISTI so that we could do this next part and be able to put our paper back in and stamp over it and have the things go in the same exact place. That's what's amazing about the MISTI is you can restamp and do some fun things like this. So what I did was I stamped it with our Juicy Embossing ink, and then I put some embossing powder on just the cap of the bottle, and then I used a little paintbrush just to wipe away any of the powder that maybe went in the wrong space. But that gave me this beautiful golden shiny cap, and it's so fun because now we've mixed the no line coloring with some embossing, and it's going to look like a real perfume bottle. My stamps back in my MISTI, and you notice I didn't bother cleaning them, and that's because with the fade out ink you don't have to worry about cleaning your stamps because it will not contaminate any of your other inks when you use them later because of the properties of that ink. So now I took off the bottle off the MISTI, and I'm grabbing these little C's that are part of the Bad and Bougie stamp set, and I'm putting it on the bottle, and I'm going to emboss the little C this way. Then with the Juicy Embossing ink, and the nice thing about our Juicy Embossing ink, what's so amazing, it's super juicy, but it's also great with detailed images. Now here you see we got the first C on, and I poured a little of our Gold Rush Ultrafine Embossing Powder on it. And our embossing powder is amazing because it really goes well with detailed images. And then I put the C going the other way, and we got our double C's for our ultra fancy perfume bottle. And many of you will recognize what that perfume is. It's really kind of fun. So now we're going to do a little more ink blending. I'm going to bring back those little items with the perfume bottle a little bit. You'll get a better look at them. But I wanted to show you here how you can get a really deep dark tone. You can see how deep of a blue I got on the bottom of that, and then I blended it up to a really nice ombre effect. And as the ink dries, it blends even more. It all evens out, and you can see, look at that beautiful ombre. And I took the big bougie die from the coordinating die set, and we cut out the bougie sentiment, and now I've got an ombre sentiment. Isn't that so cool? And so I'm just going to take a little pokey tool and poke out that little section of the E, and now we're going to do another little thing to our die cut. So our die cut is going to go on our card. It's going to have the ombre effect, but we're going to add a little glitz and glam to that with our liquid pixie dust. What I love about liquid pixie dust is how versatile it is. Here I just took a little of the liquid pixie dust and put it on a stamping block, and I'm using my paintbrush just to paint it on, and you can see it's really not disturbing the color of the ombre. It's giving us a really nice pretty look. The more I add, I'm going to get some nice highlights in it as well, and you'll see that as it dries. So we're going to move on to the next step of the card, but we're going to see we're going to bring back all the pieces and put this whole thing together. So right now I just have a panel that's an A2 size panel, and I want to have a really light frame around the other pieces that we've created already. So now I'm grabbing the peacock blue again, and you're going to see an even lighter shade of the peacock blue. So you can see you can get a very wide variety of colors out of each of our ink pads. We have a full rainbow, but in that rainbow you're going to get all kinds of colors, and it all depends on how heavy you use the ink, how light of a touch you have, what kind of blending tool you use. You can get all kinds of colors. So I wanted this really pretty frame, and I love this peacock blue color. It's just such an amazing color. We have that all blended and soft and pretty. I'm going to grab the frame from the beginning of this tutorial, and I'm going to glue it down onto that panel, and I'm just going to center it. I use some liquid adhesive glue so it gives me a little wiggle room, and you can see we have the piece of the stamp that is part of the rose that was cut off, and then to the side there I have the panel that we ink blended with the Atelier My Jam Purple and Peacock Blue, and I put some foam squares on that, and now we're going to line that up with the rose that was stamped earlier. So we're just going to line it up. So we're going to have this really cool effect where we're going to have the color of the rose and then the black and white, and it's just stamp on, stamp off. It's a really cool technique, a really cool effect. I wanted to give this a frosted glass look, so I took the die that we used earlier and I cut a piece of vellum, and now we're just going to glue that over the top of the ink blended piece that we did earlier. I like to use like a tape runner that has the little dots so it doesn't really show up under the vellum. It's going to really just disappear under there. But you're going to see this is going to add another layer of elegance, and it's going to look like a frosted glass piece. Now see how that changed? It's a subtle difference, but it adds that little bit of elegance. And above there you can see we have our perfume bottle, our diamond, and our bougie sentiment. And I love that bougie sentiment. It really basically just means extra fancy. So we took our extra fancy perfume bottle with our embossed gold C's on there, and it just looks so nice with the no line coloring. It just gives it that translucent, very elegant look to your card. What I did here is I glued the two pieces together. I grabbed the bougie sentiment just to see make sure where I wanted to place it, and now I'm going to place the bougie sentiment next. So now we're going to adhere the sentiment. I'm just going to grab some liquid glue and put some little dots. When I have a sentiment that's delicate like this one, a little tiny dots all over works really well. Of course, now I'm thinking I should probably be using tweezers because it would be easier for me to use. I wouldn't be getting glue on my hands, and then it makes it easier to adhere to your card. So I decided to grab my tweezers, and oops, I drop it, but luckily it lands glue side up. And so my recommendation is always move your card to the side before you start gluing your sentiment. So I finished putting some little dots of glue, and I want to make sure to get on all the little pieces that might hang off. And I think I've got it good here. And I'm just going to readjust it to a spot that makes it easier for me to place. I love these kind of tweezers that lock in, so I don't have to hold it the whole time. So now I'm just going to place it right over the perfume bottle. I think this gives a really nice arrangement. And then I'm just going to use my fingertips to gently tack it down onto the card. Isn't that so pretty? I just love how elegant this card turns out. And now I just adhere it to the front of my card. Take the panel and adhere it to a card front. Getting a little tongue tied there, as you can see, but look how pretty that's looking. And I just go around the sides and make sure it's all glued down. And I really wish you could see that gold, how it looks in person. It is so, so beautiful, bright, and gold and shiny. So I wanted to make sure to remind you that we do have a special going on right now for this expo show. It's 20% off your entire order. So it's a really great time to grab some goodies, and we are well stocked on everything. So you should be able to come in and grab some stuff before it sells out again. Look at the card. It's so pretty, and I really think you could do this too. It's really easy. We use Atelier, and I even took the Atelier and stamped it on the inside of the card, so when someone receives it and they open it, they've got the beautiful rose on the inside and the outside. We used our 3 essential inks, the Fade Out, the Blackout, and the Juicy, and with these inks, you can do any technique that you really want to. And that's why we call them our 3 essential inks. They're all 3 amazing inks. And then we also have the Atelier. And the good news is we will be coming out with new colors, so stay tuned for that. Whoever gets this card is really gonna love it. And it was just so fun to make. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I hope you had as much fun creating that card with me as I did with you. I hope you'll check out our YouTube channel as well as our Instagram. We always have all kinds of crafty goodies coming out, and we also are always doing different tutorials on how to use all the products and different products as well. So check that out and check out the coupon. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Hi everybody! Hello! Today we're here with the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo on Stamping Techniques Night on Tuesday. So we wanted to show you some techniques on how or what to do to stamp in your Bible, because if you want to learn about Bible journaling, there are lots of different techniques you can use, and if you already love stamping, then it's a really nice tie-in to start stamping in your Bible, because you probably have tons of stamps that will relate to verses that you want to journal. So the question though is and this is a cool sticker that my friend Bridget here gave me, and I put it on my Bible. Isn't that fun?
It's not available in my shop, but it will be soon. Soon.
She has an
Scribbles on my heart. Plug.
Yes. Etsy. And our shop is faithandartshop.com. So we're at Logos Bookstore, which is a Christian bookstore in Kent, Ohio. So if you're ever in Ohio or just driving through on the Turnpike or Route 76 or 77, we're close to all those. So you just stop over and say hi. So
I think one of the biggest questions that we get about Bible journaling is what bleeds. on the page. So
Right.
Anne went ahead and, like, one of the tricks we like to do is we go on the back of our Bible, which is the same pages that the Bible is printed on, right? But we're not going to be using these, so we do, like, you know, we practice things back here to see how they're going to bleed or how they're going to react on the Bible pages. So Anne went ahead and did some different stamp techniques that we always get a question on. So right now it kind of looks like, what is this? So she's going to kind of go through and tell you all about what she did, and we'll show you some of the products that we used. So
a lot of people will ask if they've heard about people talking about prepping their pages. So prepping a page means you put gesso, which is in a tube like this. We have it in our shop.
and you want it to be clear, otherwise you will cover the words of the Bible, and you don't want to do that with your gesso. So it's, we do love the Dina Wakely. Is it Dina? Dinah Wakely. We love this one. It's clear. Some other gessos are gritty.
Yeah.
And I don't like that because then you can't really write very well on top of them and stuff like that. So we do love this. So, and how do you put your gesso on?
Well, you can do it a couple different ways. You can either use a card. We have these little cards in our shop too. And you just put a little squirt of your gesso like this. So you just take it, whoops, that was too much, but you put it on your card like that, and then you can just drag it across your page and cover the page with this clear, it's like just a little boundary between whatever product you're going to use and the Bible page. So you let it dry for a little while, and then you can work on it. Now you don't always have to prep your pages. Some stuff won't bleed through. So what I did on, oh, thank you.
Clean for you.
So what I did, like on this page, was I did half of the page doesn't have gesso on it, and the other half does have gesso on it. So you can see that the actual ink didn't really react differently on the page, no matter
On
which,
top of the gesso, or not,
but it reacts a little bit differently on the back side. So, and I'll talk about the different inks we use, because you can see there's a big difference in some of these.
So this is definitely bled through, and this is just what we call like shadowing, really, and so that's really no big deal for us Bible journalers.
Right, because you can still then use this page later and do your own thing on it. So, oh, that was a little wet, but anyhow, whoops. So what I've done is just add more color. No, I'm just kidding.
That was on purpose.
I meant to do that, right. So, and some of the inks, like some of the inks will react with water too. So I took a little wet paintbrush. Yeah, this is a Distress Oxide. So this color I used on either side. And then just to see what a wet paintbrush would do, I just kind of dragged it over there, and it will bleed, it'll react. But that's what Distress Oxides are supposed to do. So
you need water to, like, you can use these just as an ink, but as soon as you put any bit of water on them, they're going to move on you. So, and
it sometimes is very cool to play with that,
which we're going to do that in a little bit, but.
And then so the one down here is the Tim Holtz Distress inks, just the regular Distress inks, and those, as you can see here, we'll go through a little bit, but it's not terrible. I was surprised. So then we used a pigment ink, and this one is, this one actually is that Ink It Up.
Got it.
So that one is nice. That's in our shop too. And I stamped this twice because I didn't have enough ink on it that time. So I had to redo it. And you can see it doesn't go through at all, either way. And then the Illustrated Faith is great. It doesn't bleed through. It's probably the one that shadows the least, which is awesome. But the only thing is, if you're going to add like a watercolor or anything like that, you have to remember that that's going to kind of smudge with water.
So it's not waterproof.
Right.
But it won't bleed through your Bible page.
Right. So that's here. You can
so
hardly see it at all.
If you're just going to use colored pencils, a marker maybe, gel pens, that kind of stuff, this is great.
Right. And if you put that on top of something that's already been painted and is dry, then it's perfect. It will stand out really well. And then the last one is the Ranger Archival ink here. And so that's waterproof. That that won't run at all when it gets wet, even when I do weird things to my page and make it wetter than it's supposed to be. Although it will bleed through a little bit, but it won't if you have gesso behind it.
Right.
But it's a great color safe way to go.
Right.
So, and then one other thing that I realized probably you don't want to use in your Bible, but it's still pretty fun, is the Distress Oxide sprays, which are very therapeutic because they're messy and they're awesome and you can do all kinds of cool things to them. I used it on this page and sprayed a couple layers, sprayed some water on it to get it moving around. Oh, I
actually have a page too that when Anne first got the oxides in, or these oxide sprays in, she called up her friends and we're like, yes, we will come play with you. They're super messy, okay? And they do bleed, but for me, it's just a pretty background for me to do artwork on top on this page. Yeah. So if you make it, you know, if you make it in colors that just look pretty either way, now I have a pretty page on both sides. But again, very messy. Like, I'm okay with messy, but so you just have to decide what you're okay with.
As long as you know about it going in, then you're fine.
So these are the sprays.
Right. And you can use stencils and stuff over them. They're totally fun. And then you can see that you can stamp over that without too much problem. And this, you can even, well, yeah, we showed you before, but you can use the Distress Oxide just as a regular stamping. And that makes it kind of cool. But I'm bummed that I did that. But it's fine. This is my test page. These are fun.
And you could use your heat tool. If you use the sprays, you can use your heat tool, like one of these little blow dryers here. So yeah, there's the, ooh, hot. Oh. I don't need any more heat on me.
Oh, and one thing I forgot to point out too, if you use the Distress inks, see, I had prepared my page. The top part has gesso and the bottom does not have gesso. Okay. It doesn't matter. They bled through whether there was gesso or not.
Those are the sprays?
Yeah, okay. That's a spray. And I used a cool stencil, so that it turned out really fun.
Yeah, it's like a mixed media. Yeah. So if you know, you'll learn how to use things, again, like I said, we like to practice in the back of our Bible because, you know, we don't want it to just be about the art. Although the art is really, really fun. We want to make sure that we are focusing on the scripture too when we are doing the artwork. So if we have to do like these new things and stuff outside of our Bible first and then put them in our Bible so that we're not stressing over, you know, maybe covering up the words or messing up the page or whatever, which sometimes when you mess up a page, it just gives you an opportunity to spend more time and the word right there. And you're like,
let me buy money and stuff.
Right.
So, oh, and yeah, what she was talking about too is using you can use a sketchbook, just basic sketchbook. Like
I love this sketchbook. We used these at our retreat last year. Every lady got one of these and they went crazy in these books. They had a really good time.
Yeah. The paper is not quite Bible paper. It's much thicker, but you know, like you could tear this out and then use it as a tip in your Bible, tape it in place. But you can, if you want to try different art techniques, feel free to try it in a sketchbook or the back of your Bible. But go ahead, Bridget wants to show you.
All right, so I'm just going to show you something that I like to do. So I stamped this butterfly stamp. We have these cute little butterflies in the shop. They are Illustrated Faith and one of the first sets, and I just love them. And so what I'm using is the archival ink because remember, I want it to be waterproof because I'm going to be using the oxide and I'm going to be using water, right? So I don't want my stamped image to bleed. All right, so just open it up, ink my butterfly. Okay, and it gets a little tricky sometimes stamping in your Bible because as you can see on this side, it's very smushy because there's so much stuff in here now, like, you know, paper pieces and bows and stuff, so it's not flat. So we're going to address that in just a second. But right here, I'm in the back of my Bible. It's a plain page just to kind of show you. I'm going to stamp my butterfly. Okay. If you were a good girl, you'd clean off your stamp now. I'm really bad about that. I have not gessoed my page because I was just kind of showing you a technique, so it did bleed. So just, you know, remember that. So here I am. I've got my stamped image. I've got these cute little, like, finger daubers. Is that what they're called? Sponge cap daubers, and they're super
I
cute.
wish there was a more clever way to call it, but they were.
So cute. All right, sorry. Focus. So, I'm like a little kid always. All right, so I'm gonna just take a little bit of this and put it in here. And it doesn't have to be perfectly like filled in, because I'm gonna kind of make a more distressed look. I actually was gonna grab some Q-tips on the way out the door today, but instead I ate pizza for breakfast and came. So, but if you wanted to do a little bit more deep, you know, color it all in, you could use a Q-tip or something like that. So I'm just gonna put this here. And now, I don't really need to like worry about it not blended here, because the water is gonna take care of that for me. So just got this cute little distress sprayer, and you think that you can just use a regular water bottle, but it comes out different. And
Yeah, in fact, I've got a little mister thing here.
little mister. So all you do is spray a little bit of water on, and you can just see that they just start to move. And you can actually see how I'm moving the color. So I get that like cool like watercolor like look. And really that's all. And then if I did wanna, I talked about don't worry about blending it, but here I am blending it. I can add more in right with the right over top of this. It's actually not. I need a little more blue. There we go. Ooh, now it's gonna be a different color than the other wing, but that's okay. Yeah, so I can just let it like do that, do drips here, and then if I don't want all that extra water, just take I can just like sop it up a little bit. So I could do this in the margin of my Bible. The Distress Oxides, when you put water on, they're not going to cover up the words, so you can actually make a whole pretty color background. And then what I did then after that, so I just took a little paintbrush. I wanted some splatters on there, a little couple splatters. So do this little trick here. Give it a little bit of water. Like, what are you doing? I'm just making a little kind of palette here. And then I could just do little splatters. And so then I would actually do more colors. I could do some blue, you know, whatever you wanted to do. So that's just a fun technique for some stamping and ink. So again, I'm going to use the archival ink because it's waterproof, and then I use the Distress Oxides with the water. So that was super fun. I actually can't turn my page now, but over here, what this is right here, and I'll get, maybe you can do it over there too, Anne, we'll show. I actually stamp with some gelatos. So we'll show you how to do that, but I can't, I have a mess over here now, so it has to dry before I can do anything. So gelatos are here. Yeah. And get you a butterfly. Do you have one already open?
I do have one.
All right.
So I'm just going to color some gelato on this plastic. This is like a Bible mat that I use. We usually put it between the pages just to give you a harder surface. So we do that as you're stamping so that you don't get a lot of squish.
Right, that's what I was gonna say too. Like, my Bible is pretty chunky right now, so when I'm gonna stamp and I can feel it's not even and I want to get a good stamp image, I'm gonna use my Bible mat. This is just the bigger one that goes with the you have some of those in stock, the bigger. Yeah, so Anne does have the bigger Bible mats in stock. I know that they were sold out some other places, so she has those. But if it's really, really chunky, I will even put like another acrylic block behind to give it even a harder surface. But I just want to make sure that whatever I'm stamping is that same size. You know what I mean? You want it to be right in the middle of it, just to give you some more.
You don't want to fold over the top or anything.
No, I don't want any lines when I stamp.
Yeah. So gelatos can also be kind of activated with water, and so I colored this really boldly, and this is a really cool one because it's got this iridescence to it. We have all these gelatos in our shop, and I love them. Yeah. So I'm gonna use this little mini mister, and this is a different spray bottle than what she was using. It doesn't give you like nice big drops like the other one does, but it's perfect for getting things just misty. Like that. Isn't that cool? Do you see all that shine in there? Look at, that is just cool.
It matches your fingernails.
Yeah, thanks. Look how my fingers did the other day. And then I got all this Distress Oxide spray all over them yesterday. I was like, trying to be fashionable and creative all at once, and it's tricky. It's tricky.
Well,
So-
we painted, my husband painted. I assisted. So I actually have house paint in my fingernails, so I'm not fancy.
You are fancy though. Okay, so I'm just gonna get this totally sopped up with gelato. There's kind of a lot of gelato goo in there. I'm not doing
Gelato goo.
gelato goo.
That's technical terms.
It is. It is.
So this
Yes,
doesn't
a
give you
brush.
like a you want a brush? This won't give you like that hard, like really crisp stamped image, but if you want to make some pretty backgrounds, that kind of stuff, you can totally, you know, use the gelatos for stamping.
Yeah. So we'll show you that. We'll see how this comes out because I went a little hard.
Oh,
It didn't come out at all.
Maybe too much
Okay.
water.
I think
So
it was
I
too
didn't
much
actually
water.
use any water on mine. So the first one I
Oh.
stamped turned out good, and then the other two
See
were
that?
a lot lighter.
Look at Bridget's.
Look, and that's why we practice things in the back of our Bibles first,
That is
ladies,
why.
because, you know, we don't necessarily want that to happen on a page we're trying to make pretty. You have too much goo.
I have too much goo. Okay, avoid the goo. Don't do what Anne does.
And look, we're not going to edit that out of the video, because
No.
let's be honest, we all make mistakes. If you would have done that on your Bible page, like, look, grab your gelatos and just make a messy mess, you know,
That's kinda cool.
and you could, like, make a pretty background out of that. Like, just, like, let's not stress while we're Bible journaling. We're trying to do it to, you know, grow closer to
right.
God. We don't want to be stressing over messes. So,
Don't
stressing over,
mess.
don't stress over messes. No stressing over messing.
All right.
All right, we only have
I'm
a
gonna
few more
show you.
minutes to show you a few things. How many, we have some pins here. Tell us about the pins, Anne.
Oh yeah, these are badges you would have gotten when you visited us at the booths this year at the expo, but we are including those in all of our all of our orders. So you'll get a badge. So the blue one was last year's, and then this little flower one was this year's. And I think that we don't have too many of these left. If you want that, or if you have a repeat order and you already got this one, I'll try to send you that one. But like I said, I don't have too many. You can also stamp with acrylic paint. So I put a couple little smudges of acrylic paint there and swirled it a little, and we'll see if this comes out like it's supposed to.
Maybe.
You know, fake crafter.
That's pretty.
Chelsea,
You've redeemed yourself, Anne. Good job.
And acrylic paint will not bleed through.
Yeah.
It's
It looks
a
like
little
it's
wet right
shadowing
now.
a little bit
Yeah.
because it's wet when
It's
it
wet,
dries.
and
a little
I
better.
have it up to the light from the window.
Yes.
So
All right, do we have any specials?
Yes.
What do we got going on?
20% off everything in the shop. So
Yay!
use Expo 20. Our shipping is free over $45.
Nice.
And we have a Facebook group too called Faith and Art. Well, our Facebook page is Faith and Art Shop on Facebook and Instagram. And we have a group too that shares their Bible journaling pages and inspiration, and
It's a fun little group.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you can find stuff there. But our website is faithandartshop.com. Her Etsy shop is
Scribbles on my heart. Just scribbles on my heart. I don't know why I'm adding the .com.
I mean
know anything.
.com, right? Everything should .com.
Right. So we're super excited that you guys hung out with us today. We hope that we helped you kind of learn some different techniques for stamping in your journaling Bible. It's just a little bit different than stamping on a flat piece of cardstock.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. All right, we'll see you later. Bye.
Hi, welcome back to the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo Stamp Techniques at Home live event. I'm Chad with CraftOnlineUSA.com. My daughter Sophia taping for us. And we're going to show you a couple different techniques using shimmer powder from Nuvo. We're going to be able to make stamp images with this product right here. Here's a couple examples that we worked on a little bit ago with the golden sparkler color. And this one, the darker one, is the meteorite shower. And then Sophia did a couple examples. If you don't clean your stamp off, it's going to have some really nice colors in there. So to get that effect, what we're going to do is we're going to be using our glitter mister that we sell at craftonlineusa.com. We're going to be using shimmer powder and just a little water spray bottle is all we're going to need. So first off, we're going to take just a white piece of cardstock. You could use a tag, so if you're going to try and do a little gift and want to put a Merry Christmas tag on there, you can do that. We also have tag punches to be able to do that as well. So you're going to take your shimmer powder and the glitter mister, and we're just going to spray it on the cardstock. And then we're just using a basic Merry Christmas stamp. And we're going to take that and just mist it with water. Like 3 or 4 pumps is all you're really going to need. And then put that back on your stamp platform. Turn that over, stamp down. Water's going to react with the shimmer powder that's on the stamp. What we'll do with the card, as that's a little wet still, I'm going to take it back over to this little spray box and kind of shake that shimmer powder. So if any spots didn't get covered 100%, and that's how you can use a stamp with the shimmer powder. So we'll do another example with the golden sparkler. I'm going to take just a blank piece of cardstock again. Put quite a bit on there this time, see if that makes any difference in the look of it. And take your stamp off. Just place that right back on your stamp platform. And we're just going to let that sit and dry a second. Did a few extra sprays on it, so don't want that to really run. So it's handy to have one of these stamp platforms. If you have one of the older Tim Holtz ones, you got it before they discontinue it, that's great. If not, recommend the Couture Creations stamp press. So this retails for $40 at craftonlineusa.com. It's kind of nice because the lid does not come off, and it's spring loaded. These little dots here and on the lid. So if you're using a clear stamp, you're just going to push down. I don't know if you can see that in the video. And that way a clear stamp will fit and a red rubber stamp will fit as well. And that way no shims are being used. Comes with 2 little magnets, and they'll hold your paper in place. So it's always going to be stamped in the same spot every single time. We'll just set those right there. Again, $40 at craftonlineusa.com. So here's the one that we just did. You got to shake that shimmer powder off, but hopefully that water is dried up a little bit. Maybe just dry it a little bit more with a heat gun. So this one right here, I used quite a bit more shimmer powder. So that is why the image is a little thicker than, let's say, that meteorite shower one right there. So if you use less shimmer powder, it's going to make a crisper image right there. And also you're going to want to play around with how much water to put on the actual stamp itself. That way, your image is not going to be running. Okay, so we'll kind of just clean that stamp off, put this away. So another technique you can use when using the shimmer powder is going to be making little background images. So we'll show you how to do that as well. So these two are done with the golden sparkler, and we're just going to take another blank piece of paper, your shimmer powder and the glitter mister, and we're just going to cover the paper with the shimmer powder. Now it looks like I'm using a lot of shimmer powder here. It's actually not going through as much as you think. One little jar of shimmer powder is going to fill up your glitter mister to the point you need and will last you a long time. And we're just going to take your spray bottle and spray the shimmer powder with the water. And we're just going to let that dry. And actually what you can do is take glitter. As that's still a little wet, mist a little bit of glitter on there. It's not glue, but it is, with the water absorbing into the paper, the glitter will stick to that card. But it's not going to be permanent. So this is going to create kind of a spackly effect. We'll show you how to get this watercolor effect here right now. And I'm going to kind of do it in a reverse way. You're going to spray the paper first. And then you're going to take your shimmer powder, go to your little spray box. And as this dries, you're going to just see the watercolor effect happen on the paper. So it makes for a nice background, or you can stamp over that to create a card. One other thing I will point out, as you're playing with the shimmer powder, it's going to get all over your hands, so you're going to want to use a spray box. And then places that you're holding the card or the tag are going to get some shimmer powder on it. So after it's all dry, that's when you're going to want to just, cut around it so you get the bad look off the tag that you're working with. And we will move on to show you the blending brushes that we have as well. So I hope you guys think that's kind of a cool technique. We seem to, my daughter Sophia and I had fun trying to figure that out and come up with something new that we haven't done before. So blending brushes have been a pretty hot item lately. Pick a fence, you can get these at craftonlineusa.com. Pack retails for $49.99. So you're going to get 10 blending brushes, the smaller ones and the larger ones in the pack. And then we also have another pack of blending brushes, Universal Crafts. You're going to get a 10 pack again, smaller ones, and then the larger ones in the middle. They're going to be the same product. Universal Crafts, it retails for $18.99 at craftonlineusa.com. So it's an amazing value if you're looking for a new set of blending brushes. So if you haven't seen these used, we'll do a little demo on how to use them and what to do. If you have ink on your brush already, you can just take your stamp chamois and just rub it on the stamp chamois, and that's going to take the ink out of the brush. So when you're going to blend with it, most of the ink is out of it. Now, if you want to get it perfectly clean, you can run it under warm soapy water and take the rest of the ink out, but that's good enough for what we're doing right now. And just take a piece of cardstock in your new pack of $18.99 blending brushes that you got from craftonlineusa.com, or you can get the ones for $50. So just picked out a few of the distressed oxide colors, and we're going to pick up some of that color on the blending brush. And we're using the glass media mat from Tim Holtz in Tonic. You can find that on the website, $28.99. So you're saving a little bit of money on it right there. Shopping with craftonlineusa.com. So as you can see, these blending brushes will just shade very nice. It is going to pick up the color and allow you to cover your cardstock and not have it get too dark. I'll put a little blue in there as well. Just kind of blend that, or the salty ocean, I should say, blend it with the peacock feather. You can push down hard with them. It's not going to ruin the brush, or you can do it pretty light. So we're using just cheap, I don't want to say cheap, it's just inexpensive white cardstock. So it is, I mean, it's absorbing the ink, but it's starting to pill a little bit. So you might want to use a little bit nicer cardstock so it doesn't pill, but just for the example of the new pack of $18.99 blending brushes that you can get, it's a really cool technique on blending ink onto cardstock. So to kind of go over what we did again, we were using the Craft Online glitter mister with the shimmer powder to create this stamped image right here. Another example of that. And then we're also using the glitter misters with the shimmer powder to create these background images as well. Take a look at those again. And then for this one right here, we also use the Solo Crafts Ultrafine Glitter. And I think this retails for $4.99 on the website. You get a half an ounce of fine glitter in there for $4.99, so it's not that bad of a value. And you just put that in the glitter mister. You have one for your glitter, and then you have one for your shimmer powder. So we discount these on the website just because if you want to create this, you need 2 bottles of the glitter mister, because you're not going to be mixing these colors. They're almost impossible to clean, and you won't be able to clean them. And then at craftonlineusa.com, we're always adding new product. So some of the new tonic colors, we have the mint tea with the mousse. We also have the frosted petal, the glacier paste. These were just released. And some of the new Nouveau drops. So like the jewel drops, their new color, the new stone drop, which is going to be Rosebud Pink. And then we have Heritage Rose for the new crystal drop. So check out craftonlineusa.com to find anything that you're looking for. If we don't have it, send us an email. We'd love to try and find it for you. And hopefully our prices on the website are going to help save you a little money. And then also don't forget, if you're looking for a stamp platform to be able to do these stamped images, the stamp press from Couture Creations is an excellent one to get and use for your projects. And then again, don't forget $18.99, 10-pack of blending brushes. Thank you so much for joining us for this stamp technique that my daughter Sophia helped me create. Appreciate her help, and hope you have fun shopping at the website craftonlineusa.com. Have a good night.